trailer Tyler's living in is supposed to be on a dirt road about a mile and a half east of Solar. He was homesteading a hunk of land out there.
I'm going to drop down a little, see if we can see better.
It's a rugged country down there.
That might be a road over there.
Fred Jaffe, Los Angeles Star Citizen.
Hello, Fred.
Oh, Sheriff Bates, how are you? I didn't recognize you at first. So I'd like you to meet Chuck Martin and P.T. Moore.
Hiya. Hi. Howdy.
Howdy, Sheriff.
May I ask you to help us before we're through? Glad to. Step over here, Fred. Mr. Hurley? This is Mr. Hurley. He's the one who can give you your story, Fred.
How do you do, sir? How do you do?
Mr. Jaffe's with the newspaper.
I guess I'm the last person to see any of them alive.
You mean they're dead?
We don't know anything, Fred. Just that the whole family has vanished into thin air. Sometime between 6 last night and 9:30 this morning.
Any signs of violence?
None?
Well, I guess they just drove away in a car, huh?
Not that either. There's the family car there. As far as we can tell, no other car has been out this way to pick them up.
Well, and they walked away, huh?
Only a windstorm or a rain can wipe out tracks in the desert. And we've had neither. Bruce Tyler, his wife, and his 2 kids didn't leave any tracks. Something very strange must have happened here last night. Step inside and I'll show you what I mean. Mrs. Tyler and the children were alone here at the time of the disappearance. Bruce had ridden into town with Mr. Hurley. Whatever it was that caused them to leave came about suddenly. Apparently, the children had been put to bed. Their daytime clothes are still beside their bunks. Shoes on the floor. Mrs. Tyler might have been reading them a bedtime story at the time. This lamp was still burning when Hurley got here this morning. The dishes still in the dishwater. The coffee pot boiled dry on the stove. They tell me that Bruce Tyler was handy at repairing radios and electrical equipment. He used to make his living at it before he brought his family out here.
The radio's on. Must have run down the battery.
You know, this is a case of the Mary Celeste all over again.
The who?
The Mary Celeste. It was a ship, brigantine, I think, found drifting, abandoned by all hands between the Azores and Portugal in 1872.
Where's the connection?
Well, when the ship was found, there was no distress flag flying. The sails still stood. The crew had left, and they hadn't taken their oilskins or their pipes. The wash was still on the lines, the chronometer was still ticking, and there was a half-finished letter in the mate's cabin.
Well, so what happened to them? What was the answer?
That's just the point, Sheriff. They never have found out what happened to them, to this day.
Huh. This is the California desert, not the middle of the ocean. This disappearance is going to be solved.
Wonder what this recording wire's for.
Search me. Look at this. Some little girl's really going to miss this doll.
Yeah, you can sure see that.
You know, it'd take an awful lot to make a little mother abandon her child.
Yeah. Or a young man, his weapon. What do you think?
I don't know. Seems like kind of a sweet family. I hope nothing serious has happened to them.
Yeah. Well, we better stick with Fred Jaffe and see if he's learned anything.
Bruce Tyler was working on his car around there when I drove up, close to 6 o'clock yesterday evening.
Did you see Mrs. Tyler or any of the kids?
They were being put to bed in the trailer and kicking up quite a fuss. There was no reason to bother Mrs. Tyler. What I come to say, I could say to her husband.
Well, what had you come to see Tyler about, Mr. Hurley?
Johnny never showed up at school. Tyler had promised me the boy would be there for sure this morning. So when I checked and found out he hadn't shown up, I decided to have it out with Tyler once and for all.
You a truant officer?
County. I warned Tyler a dozen times he'd get into trouble if he persisted in trying to teach his kids himself.
Well, it looks like they were making plenty of fun out of it.
Fun don't take the place of a proper education.
Mr. Hurley, would you say that Tyler was the kind of a man who'd take his family and run away just to keep Johnny out of school?
Where would they go? Besides, Tyler never came back to his wife and kids. When I dropped him off at the garage, that's the last anyone saw of him.
What about the garage mechanic?
He never saw him either.
Sheriff Bates tells me that no other car besides yours came up here. Now, how can he be sure of that?
The road to town leads through the property of the Solar Borax Company. The watchman who locks up the gates at night had to let me through this morning.
Well, isn't there some other way to get in here?
Just the way you fellas came.
What's off in that direction?
50 miles of desert, stretching into Nevada.
Mind taking me upstairs for a look?
Not at all, Sheriff. Excuse me.
No one could get very far on foot, let alone a woman with 2 kids.
Circle around over there.
Say, Sheriff, could Bruce Tyler have been running away from something?
What do you mean?
Well, living out of town the way he did, almost like he was hiding out.
Hiding out from what?
I don't know, it was just an idea.
Well, it's funny you're mentioning it. Bruce Tyler has a jail sentence in his past. Put in a year at San Quentin for aiding an armed robbery.
How long ago was this?
He and his wife were expecting their first child about 8 years ago.
Hey, look over there.
They're wild horses. There's several herds of them roaming around this part of the desert.
Don't they belong to anybody?
I guess not. Government tries to round them up once in a while to keep the herds from getting too big. They're anybody's property.
Let's take a closer look, Chuck.
Want to make a statement, Sheriff?
We don't know any more now than we knew this morning.
I'll make a bet that you'll never find out much more. This is a real case of a Mary Celeste. Well, I'd like to get back to Solar to phone in the story. Thanks for everything, Sheriff.
Right. I know all I care to know about Bruce Tyler. I had him working for me, fixing radios and electrical appliances. That is, up until the time the money disappeared.
No, what money is that?
I was $78.64 short in my accounts at the end of the month. Of course, I couldn't prove it. But when I found out Tyler had a prison record, I was doggone sure he'd been helping himself out of the till.
So you fired him, huh?
Well, sure I fired him. What are people around here going to think of me? Hiring a jailbird.
Is that when he and his family moved out to this homestead?
Well, it could have been afterwards. But that boy, Johnny of his, he just couldn't seem to get along with other kids in Sola. And his wife, Mrs. Tyler, she wasn't the friendly type. Always kept to herself.
You know what Tyler did before he came here?
Well, he never seemed to stay in any one place very long. I guess he was pretty good at electrical work, but the big plants wouldn't hire him with that record of his. Excuse me, I got a customer to wait on.
Sure.
Play the mystery angle for all it's worth. It ought to be good for several editions. You know, man and his family disappears overnight. Authorities baffled.
We'll find her, Johnny. I'll get help. You stay here with Johnny.
Oh, Bruce.
Now sit down, dear. Take the weight off your ankle. I won't be long.
Janie. Find her, Bruce. Find her. Daddy! It's a helicopter!
Side ends at a mine. We should hit it right on the nose.
I think we're about to.
Radio and Television Repair, Overton, Nevada. Doesn't look like anybody's around. Hello, anybody here? You know, Chuck, if your theory's right, that is Tyler's truck. Where are they?
Well, the way I see it, he drove the truck as far as he could and then went after his family on foot to guide him back here.
Well, then they're still out on the desert.
Yeah, you know what I think we ought to do is fly a direct course into Solar and see what we can pick up.
Let's go.
My little girl's been missing since last night. Those wild horses.
Climb in, we'll take a look.
We'll find Janie. You stay with Mother, Johnny. Sure glad you showed up. She's such a little tyke, I don't think she'd last out here very long.
You any idea which direction she started out in?
I haven't the slightest. You see, I wasn't with them when the wild horses frightened them and they became separated. That was yesterday. Janie's been missing since.
Well, the whole country's sure wondering what became of you and your family.
I can explain that.
Never mind that. Let's find Janie first. Use the binoculars, P.T.
Fault. I had a crazy idea about dropping out of sight and starting life all over again under another name.
In Overton, Nevada.
How did you know?
We saw your truck.
It was planned that I'd meet them halfway. I didn't know about the horses.
I wouldn't worry about that now. Let's keep looking for your little girl.
There's another herd of horses up ahead.
Turn off before we run him to death.
Wait a minute. Look over there.
Miss Janie, we've got to stop those horses. They're heading right for her.
Give me the gun, Chuck.
You have a doctor take a look at that ankle just as soon as you get to Overton.
You mean you're not going to report us? Well, I'll tell you, we have a friend that says this is the most mysterious disappearance since the case of the Mary Celeste. I'd kind of hate to ruin his story, wouldn't you, P.T.?
That's right.
I'll never forget what you've done for us.